On a warm September day in 1979, a shockwave hit the quiet world of Memphis medicine. Dr. John Nichopoulas, the personal doctor to the king himself, Elvis Presley, received an unexpected visit. Two men from the State Healing Arts Board, dressed in suits as formal as the occasion demanded, handed him a legal document. It felt like receiving an invitation to a hanging. The date was carved in his memory, September 7, 1979 at 12:55 p.m. These men were not there to offer compliments or share news of a royal visit. They were there to accuse Dr. Nichopoulas of a serious crime, misusing prescription drugs. It was a claim that could ruin a career and tarnish a reputation. For Dr. Nichopoulas, it was like being accused of theft in broad daylight. Joseph Dugman, a young lawyer from Nashville, and Steve Bilski, a fresh law graduate, were the bearers of this bad news. They had been tasked with serving the papers, but their mission was more than just legal. They were part of a larger game played by the state's Healing Arts Board and ABC News. The board was responsible for making sure doctors like Dr. Nichopoulas followed the rules when it came to prescribing medicine, but ABC had its own agenda. They wanted a story that would put them ahead in ratings against their competitors. Dr. Nichopoulas was stunned but composed. He signed the paperwork, noting the time as if it were the moment he was handed a gift from a mysterious sender. Little did he know this was just the beginning of a storm. The news broke locally a few days later. The Memphis Press-Scimitar was the first to report, giving Dr. Nichopoulas a heads up. The article painted a picture of a doctor in trouble, accused of giving Elvis drugs without a good reason. It was a story that would catch the public's attention, even if it was based on incomplete information. As the story unfolded, it became clear that the Healing Arts Board's investigation was not as clean as it seemed. A tip from a patient who worked as a freelance reporter led to Jack Kirsch, a local pharmacist. Kirsch had given ABC News leads on Dr. Nichopoulas' prescriptions for Elvis, hoping to shift suspicion away from himself. This revelation added a twist to the tale, a pharmacist playing a dangerous game of cat and mouse. The plot thickened as it was discovered that most of Dr. Nichopoulas' prescriptions had been filled at Kirsch's pharmacy, the prescription house. Kirsch claimed he was just doing his job, but it was clear he was trying to protect himself. When confronted, he admitted on camera to filling prescriptions for Dr. Nichopoulas, though he downplayed the significance. The media frenzy continued as Dr. Nichopoulas learned more about the investigation he was unaware of. It turned out that ABC News and the Healing Arts Board had made a deal. ABC provided information to help the board's investigation in exchange for an exclusive story. It was a clear case of collusion, but ABC denied any wrongdoing. As the court date approached, Dr. Nichopoulas felt a mix of determination and fear. He had 4 months to prepare his defense, but the revelations kept coming. Each new piece of information made the situation more complex, more challenging. The game had just gotten a lot more interesting, but for Dr. Nichopoulas, it was a battle for his career and reputation. ABC's 2020 program decided to dive into the mystery of Elvis Presley's death with a special segment. They claimed to have uncovered evidence pointing to a cover-up. This was not just any ordinary program, it was a significant piece meant to challenge the official narrative surrounding the king's death. The program started by highlighting a disagreement between two officials involved in the autopsy. One was the coroner, the other a pathologist. This disagreement was about what exactly caused Elvis's death. The pathologist believed it was heart-related issues, while the coroner had a different view. ABC used this disagreement to fuel their story about a cover-up. They also showed a toxicology report that listed several drugs found in Elvis's system. For those not familiar, toxicology reports show what substances are in a person's body at the time of death. ABC pointed to this report as proof something was not right, but they didn't mention that the autopsy itself showed no sign of these drugs in Elvis's body. It's like saying someone has chocolate in their pockets, but the cake they ate had no chocolate inside. The program featured an interview with Elvis's girlfriend. She admitted to taking a drug that day, but she was quick to say she wasn't an addict. ABC didn't mention this when they questioned her earlier, which was curious. They also called her very candid, which was their way of saying she was honest but selective in what she shared. The title of their story, The Elvis Cover-Up, was intriguing. It suggested there was more to the story than met the eye. ABC's reporter, Geraldo Rivera, led the investigation. He spoke on air about how the autopsy report was not made public, claiming Dr. Francisco, who assisted at the autopsy, was hiding something. But here's the thing, only the Presley family could officially release the autopsy results since they requested a private autopsy. ABC didn't mention this important detail. Geraldo's segment also included an interview with the ambulance driver who responded to the call. The driver said he saw people trying to revive Elvis in the bathroom, suggesting Elvis was already very dead when they arrived. He mentioned someone said Elvis had overdosed but didn't say who. Crucially, the driver said no drugs were found in Elvis's bathroom, contradicting ABC's claims. Based on this, ABC suggested that Elvis's team had been dishonest during the initial police investigation. They implied that I, as someone involved, had deliberately misled them about the drugs, but this didn't make sense. If I had the drugs, they couldn't have been the ones that killed Elvis, since the autopsy showed no trace of them in his system. ABC also speculated that I might have played a part in covering up the death, hinting that Dr. Francisco, the pathologist, might know something he wasn't saying. They suggested Dr. Francisco might think stomach contents were tampered with, despite knowing how they're usually handled during emergencies. It was an accusation without evidence, and as someone who wasn't a private citizen anymore, I felt it was unfair. The program lacked balance. They didn't bring in experts to explain Dr. Francisco's findings about heart disease and cardiac arrhythmia, which were the official cause of death. They didn't talk to family members who might have shared insights about Elvis's medical history. It seemed they were more interested in creating a story that fit their narrative rather than seeking the truth. Geraldo's segment included various clips and interviews meant to support their claim of a cover-up. There were statements from people who knew Elvis, some of whom had their own drug histories, but ABC didn't share this information. They also had a pharmacist talk about filling Elvis's last prescription for pain medication, without questioning its relevance. The segment ended with Geraldo presenting 8 points that suggested a cover-up. He talked about the lack of a real police investigation, among other things. But it was all wrapped up in a way that felt more like drama than journalism. In the end, ABC's 2020 program presented itself as investigating a mystery, but it felt more like they were spinning a tale to capture viewers' attention. The program raised more questions than it answered and left viewers with a sense that the truth about Elvis's death was far from clear, despite the show's assertions. The story of Elvis Presley's death took a dramatic turn after a television program called The Elvis Cover-Up aired. The show suggested there was a cover-up surrounding the King's death, claiming it was due to drug-related issues. This sparked a wave of investigations and heated debates. At first, it seemed like ABC's investigation had found proof. They claimed Elvis's doctor, Nichopoulas, didn't search the nurse's house trailer where drugs were kept. If true, this would mean Elvis had easy access to drugs, hinting they were behind his death. However, this claim was weak. The real reason Elvis's death was ruled a natural cause was because the investigative team found no evidence of foul play. There was no murder to investigate. Another important point was that Nichopoulas, the doctor, didn't examine the contents of Elvis's stomach after death. Some thought this was significant, but it wasn't. Elvis had been fasting for days, so there was nothing to find. No pills were found, which matched the account from the person who described the autopsy. No coroner's inquest was held because there was no evidence of foul play. A coroner only orders an inquest when a death is suspicious. Since Elvis's death wasn't considered suspicious, no inquest took place. The district attorney's office, which handles criminal cases, was not notified to review the case for any criminal activity. They were aware of the report but concluded no crime had been committed. A major oversight was that the toxicology report's findings, including the drugs found in Elvis's system, were never fully explored. These drugs were legal medications prescribed by his doctor for various ailments. The fact that they were there did not mean Elvis was on illegal drugs. Yet the narrative kept trying to suggest otherwise. Missing from the coroner's file were key documents like photographs from the scene and the toxicology report. This raised questions about transparency. Why were these documents missing? And why did ABC, the network that aired the investigation, think they had the right to access these records? Many believed a cover-up occurred, especially after a local newspaper reported that the hospital would review cases handled by Nichopoulas following the ABC program. The hospital claimed it was to look into how patients were treated for overdoses, but it was clear they were reacting to the negative publicity. This led to further investigations by the district attorney's office. They began to look into whether Nichopoulas could be criminally responsible for Elvis's death, focusing on the drug angle. This decision came just hours after the TV program aired, raising suspicions about timing and motives. The whole situation was deeply troubling for those who knew Elvis. His fans and colleagues saw him as a hardworking man battling health issues to entertain millions. The narrative pushed by ABC ignored this reality, focusing instead on scandal and controversy. The fallout was immediate. The hospital faced scrutiny, and the district attorney's office launched a criminal inquiry. For Nichopoulas, it meant his career was under threat. No concrete proof of drug-related foul play existed, yet charges were being considered based on unproven claims. This episode highlighted how media can influence public perception and legal processes. It showed the dangers of jumping to conclusions without evidence. Elvis's legacy suffered as the focus shifted from his immense contributions to speculative and sensational stories about his death. In the end, the true cause of Elvis's death remained unclear, overshadowed by the media circus that followed. It served as a cautionary tale about the responsibility that comes with reporting on sensitive subjects and the lasting impact of unsubstantiated claims on public figures and their legacies.